now read throughout all 9 sections. Yehuda ben Tema says, "Be bold as a leopard, swift as an eagle, fleet as a deer, and strong as a lion, to fulfill the will of your Father in heaven." To be bold as a leopard means that one should not to be embarrassed when confronted by scoffers. Strong as a lion, strength is mainly lodged in the heart, enabling one to overcome his evil inclination and conquer it like a mighty man who overcomes his adversary, vanquishing him and throwing him to the ground. Similarly, like a lion, every individual should overcome his inclination in the morning and rise from sleep before dawn to serve his Creator. Thus he will rouse the morning, as it is written, "I will wake the dawn," which implies, "I will wake the dawn. The dawn will not wake me." This is an intermediate standard of conduct. Section 2. It is, however, appropriate for any God-fearing person, any man of valor whose heart God has touched, to rise at midnight and to devote a little time of mourning for the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, the temple in Jerusalem, and the exile of the divine presence. One should recite the psalm beginning, "By the waters of Babylon," and the like, as printed in various Siddurim. For thus it is written, "Arise, cry out in the night, at the beginning of the watches," just as the Holy One, blessed be He himself, mourns at this time, saying, "Woe is me, that I have destroyed my house." And a modest measure recited with genuine intent is preferable to a greater quantity with less earnest feelings. Afterwards, one should engage in the study of the oral law, the Mishnah, the Talmud, the Gemara, until daybreak. Section 3. The praises which the Zohar lavishes on this practice are well known. Similarly, the Talmud states that midnight is a time of divine favor. This is reflected in the fact that it came to pass at midnight that God smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt. Our sages also said, whenever a person engages in Torah study at night, the divine presence is before him. This is implied by the verse, "Arise, cry out in the night. At the beginning of the watches, pour out your heart like water, facing the presence of God." That is to say, the divine presence abides with the individual at the beginning of the watches, which means midnight. If a person cannot rise at midnight, he should rise at the beginning of the 3rd watch. If one engages in Torah study at night, a thread of divine favor is extended over him during the day, as it is written, "By day God ordains his loving kindness, and at night his song is with me." Moreover, such a person is called a servant of God, as in the verse that addresses all the servants of God who stand in the house of God by night. It is advisable to prepare a rooster, as Rabbi Akiva did, to wake one at midnight. Even when on a journey, he would take a rooster with him to wake him at midnight. If a rooster will not wake its owner, he should hire someone to wake him. Section 4. As soon as a person wakes up, in order that he should be able to overcome his inclination and rise energetically, at midnight or before dawn, as in the intermediate standard of conduct, he should contemplate in his heart before whom he is lying. He should be aware that the King of Kings is hovering over him, as it is written, "The entire earth is filled with his glory." Were he to lie before a king of flesh and blood, who was standing over him, he would be liable for his life. How much more does this apply with regard to the King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He? Section 5. A cardinal principle in the Torah, and one of the attributes of the righteous who walk before God, is reflected by the verse, "I have placed God before me at all times." For the manner in which a person sits, moves about, and conducts his affairs is not the same when he is alone at home as when he is in the presence of a great king. Similarly, the way he speaks freely in the company of members of his household is not the same as the way he speaks in the dwelling of a king. How much more does this apply when one earnestly considers that the great King, the King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He, is standing over him and observing his deeds, as it is written, "If a man hides himself in secret places, will I not see him, says God, for I fill both heaven and earth." When one earnestly considers this, he will immediately be affected by awe and submissiveness, with a constant fear of God and bashfulness before him. If he is not immediately affected in this manner, he should ponder deeply upon this concept until he is affected. Moreover, he should repent with wholehearted teshuvah for all his sins, for it is they that prevent the awe from affecting him, as it is written, "Your sins have separated you from your God." Section 6. It is proper for one to habituate himself immediately upon waking, to say, Modeh ani, I offer thanks to you, living and eternal King, for you have mercifully restored my soul within me. Great is your faithfulness. This will remind him of God who is standing over him, and he will then rise energetically. Nevertheless, he should not rise and stand up suddenly, but should wait a little until he has completed this sentence, while still lying or sitting, as would be explained in the laws of proper conduct. Since this statement does not include any of the 7 divine names that may not be erased, one is not forbidden to recite it before washing his hands. This applies even when he slept naked and his hands presumably touched unclean parts of his body, as will be explained in section 4. By contrast, it is forbidden to utter words of Torah with unclean hands, though it is permissible to think about words of Torah. Nevertheless, a person should not speak, nor even think words of Torah while he is still lying in bed, even if he has already washed his hands. Instead, he should arise and stand up, or sit in awe in the spirit of the verse. Prepare to greet your God, O Israel. Section 7. As explained below in section 4, the Talmud and the subsequent halachic authorities rule that when a person sleeps in his clothes, it is possible that his hands do not touch the unclean parts of his body. Hence, his hands are presumably in a state that allows him to mention God's name that appears in the blessings and to speak words of Torah. Needless to say, according to this ruling, he may touch his clothes, even though a spirit of impurity rests upon his hands. He should merely refrain from touching food or drink as explained there. Nevertheless, the Zohar rules very stringently that one should neither recite blessings, nor study, nor touch one's garments, nor walk 4 cubits, while the spirit of impurity still rests on one's hands before they are washed in the morning. A person who walks 4 cubits before washing is liable for his life, for by allowing this impurity to rest upon his hands, he desecrates the sanctity of God which rests upon him, as it rests upon all of God's servants who sanctify themselves with the holiness of the Omnipresent and His holy Torah to a higher degree of sanctity and purity than that of the people at large who have not attained this level. Nonetheless, if it happens that a person does not have sufficient water to wash his hands 3 times properly in order to remove the spirit of impurity when he rises at night, heaven forbid that he should desist from studying Torah until daybreak, when he will be able to wash his hands 3 times. Instead, he should wash his hands in a lesser manner, or clean them with any other substance. He should then recite the blessings and proceed with his study in accordance with the ruling of the Talmud and the halachic authorities. Section 8. The time of midnight is always calculated in the same manner in summer and winter, 12 hours after noon. This is the actual midpoint of the night, and a time of divine favor above, at all times and in all places. Although the length of the days and the nights varies according to the climates, the various latitudes, and the longitudinal distances between one country and another, that does not change the above. This resembles the times for reciting Shema and Shemoneh Esrei, and the times at which the Shabbos or the festivals commence, which are also calculated for each country according to the times of its own day and night. For the time of divine favor and the supernal unions affected by the recitation of Shema and the Shemoneh Esrei, and the sanctity of Shabbos and the festivals all transcend the limits of space and time, though they radiate downward into the physical realms to each and every place at the time appropriate for it. This also explains why sublime holiness pervades in the diaspora on the 2nd day of the festival. Hence, inhabitants of Eretz Yisrael who are temporarily in the diaspora are obligated to observe the holiness of that day, even though they intend to return to Eretz Yisrael. This will be explained in the laws pertaining to the festivals. Section 9. It is proper to recite every day the passage of the Akedah, the binding of Yitzchak, to recall the merit of the patriarchs, the passage concerning the manna, to spur one's trust in God, who provides every man with his daily bread, and the 10 Commandments. In addition, it is very advisable to recite the passages pertaining to the various sacrifices, the daily burnt offering, the peace offering, the thanksgiving offering, the sin offering, the definite guilt offering, and the provisional guilt offering, the adjustable guilt offering, the libations, and all the meal offerings, as reproduced in the Maidos. This recitation fulfills the intent of the verse. We will render the prayer of our lips in place of the sacrifice of bulls. Likewise, it is written, this is the law of the burnt offering, the meal offering, the sin offering. And on this verse the sages comment, whoever studies the laws of the burnt offering is considered to have brought a burnt offering. Nevertheless, a person who has the capacity to study and to understand the oral law should not recite daily even the passages describing the sacrifices. This he should do only from time to time, and for him it is sufficient every day to recite the chapter beginning, Etzehu Mekoman. For a Torah study is superior because it leads to action, as well as to a knowledge of the Torah, as is stated in Hilchos Talmud Torah. If a person knows that he is obligated to offer a particular sacrifice, a burnt offering because he neglected a positive commandment, or willfully contemplated transgressing a prohibitive commandment, or a thanksgiving offering if he finds himself in one of the four categories of those who are obligated to express their gratitude in this way, he should recite the passage dealing with that sacrifice as soon as he becomes obligated. This he should do by day, for this is the time at which the relevant sacrifices were offered, and not at night. However, he does not have to recite these passages while standing, as a Kohen was required to offer the sacrifices while standing. For in fact, he is not a Kohen offering sacrifices. It is only that his study is accounted as equivalent to the service of a priest who brought an offering on his behalf. On Shabbos, it is proper to recite the passage describing the offering of the showbread. And that is section 1 through 9.